Welcome, acolytes. Today I am reacting to Ref Says the Sue, as always, the legend himself. And it's about the actual failing of Veilguard. The only video I'm gonna actually watch about it is from now on is if Scouter V does something or there's something extremely funny about it. Otherwise, no. Because right now the only thing that is interesting for me on Veilguard, on the failure, I think I pretty much said my stuff how it is. You know, those who actually see my videos know that what I think about it. If you don't, basically I don't like it. It failed as a Dragon Age game, and it's definitively one of the better WoW games because it wasn't a total freaking crash. It had some buyers, but it only came because of the title, just because it's the Dragon Age title. It is what it is. Like, it's at best, if we wouldn't say it's a Dragon Age game, I would say middle of the road at best. But for a Dragon Age game, 2 maximum. So let's just start what Ref has to say about it, and subscribe and like, you know the shebang. Show me and Ref some love, acolytes. So is this actually? Yeah, that's fine. Let's just start.
As I'm sure most of you are already aware, the year 2024 has been a year where...
Oh, correctly, by the way. The Acolyte, yep. Outlaws, yep. Dustborn, oof, died quickly. Flintlock, didn't know it, didn't see it. Borderlands, yeah, basically. Suicide Squad, dead. Doctor Who, dead. Concord, didn't even survive the first thing. Encon, I don't know it. Zao, didn't know it. Yep. Dragon Age at least sold a bit of something, but I think this was from all of the things the strongest one that actually made some money. And Awakening, dead. Fair enough.
Bunch of woke garbage in media has been struggling mightily, and that's a good thing. We have seen many titles like Star Wars The Acolyte and Star Wars Outlaws, Dustborn, Suicide Squad Killed the Justice League, Unknown 9 Awakening, Zao, among many others, flop extremely hard, and nobody's feeling sorry for those titles. No. However, some...
And by the way, you shouldn't be sorry for those titles. Even for those people who actually... The only ones I am sorry about are those who actually work there and didn't want to make this slop, but it was just their job. Because yes, there are people who actually have that situation. Those I actually care for, but everything else I don't care. And no, I don't know anyone who actually was in this situation, so until I get shown that somebody actually had this situation, I don't care.
Studios and producers have been able to survive this wave of flops because they've had titles to offset their losses. Like Sony, for example. They have actually survived and actually overcome the Concord flop that cost them hundreds of millions of dollars simply because they were in on Black Myth Wukong, which overcame all those losses from Concord.
Rejuvenated
now,
like fuck.
Other studios and producers, maybe not so lucky. BioWare is in some big trouble right now, so they put all their cards on Dragon Age the Veilguard. This is a game that many predicted would be a massive success.
And by the way, it's really a big risk to put your eggs in one product, all your eggs into one basket, because it can flop. It can flop gigantically. It can also succeed gigantically, but most of the time, and maybe you disagree with me, but if you can see, I think it was Pyrocynical that actually said that. He makes his Schlop channel to fund the big videos. Because right now, if you actually look at YouTube, if you want to make a really high quality product, first of all, you need time. And in my second channel, I just don't have the time to do something like a bit better to hone my skills because I am shit at it. And I need a lot of time of actually making it a bit better. And I just can't. For the love of me, I just can't do everything. So yeah, there's that. And my second channel is, by the way, not even live, so there's that. But or it is live. It has exactly one video that didn't even get a view. So there's that. But it wasn't because I expected that. It was an indie game that specifically was about a necromancer, and it's SmilingLich G if if you're interested to looking that one up. And it just takes time and money, and I believe to a certain degree. And you have this exact same thing like here. BioWare should have done small titles that actually were a success, and then go out with the big thing, Veilguard, but they were just like, nah, we're fine. We're so arrogant, this won't happen. But yeah, it's fair.
So when I say many, mostly people in the gaming industry, whether it's developers, teams, and also games journalists.
Yep.
Now, looking at the numbers here, we're quite a bit into the release of this game, and it's not looking good, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure you're...
Yeah, by the way, this curve actually permanently slides down. It just falls down step by step, so...
already aware that the peak number of this game only reached 89,000 players, which is not good for this game.
No, for any other game, let's just say it would be an indie game, this would be fantastic. This is a dream accomplished for a small indie game. For Dragon Age, that's shit. For Dragon Age, those things are just pure shit. And I'm going to show it to you. Just let's look it up again. Steam charts, Dragon Age the Veilguard. I had to look it up again. I actually had a misinformation with it, with the entire thing. It's just what I wanted to show you. Dragon Age Origins Ultimate Edition. You can see it had 40k followers. The first thing that was released years and years and years after the actual release on the console. And it's just disturbing that some legendary thing like this would be released and did this kind of push towards the entire thing. It was released on console, as I said. You couldn't even really get it on PC and on some freaking thing here. This is just... And the ratings? Look at this shit. Look at this shit. Yeah, those two aren't even comparable.
Big budget, a very successful franchise, and a caked-in fan base that consists of millions of people. Only achieving a number like that, getting crushed by games like the banana game, it's just embarrassing.
Like the banana, I have to look up what this is. Damn, I just pressed a few buttons, I had to go out with the dogs. I hope I got the correct thing. Yeah, the freaking electricity just fell out, so nice.
Now, only 42,000 players, and again, it's only been out for about just over a week, so that is a pretty abysmal number for Veilguard. And now we're
and Rev, for a Dragon Age game, that's abysmal.
Seeing some predictions and rumors regarding the number of copies sold for this game, and it's apparently, allegedly, less than Star Wars Outlaws. In fact, it is significantly less than Star Wars Outlaws. And if you...
That's good. Okay. And I think Endymion said it, so... I mean, most of Endymion is a trustworthy source, so...
know anything about the sales of that game, you know this is an absolute tragedy for BioWare. Now, before we get into the actual numbers here that are being rumored, let's kind of remind ourselves where we're at with this game, and especially when it comes to the way that games journalists have propped up this game and the way that games journalists, as an update here, have been backing off of their claims that this game was a success. So we've been told over and over again.
This is so fucking funny. Yeah. And by the way, I don't agree with that entirely because Baldur's Gate 3 has elements of wokeness in it, but it doesn't even come close to be enough to actually, well, be influential about it. But the rest, didn't give a fuck, 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 didn't give a fuck.
Veilguard was actually a commercial success. You dumb chud gamers, you know nothing. This game was actually a big success. And like I said, its numbers being dwarfed by games like the banana game. But we're supposed to sit here and think this was a big success because the journalist said so. And you can see the reviews. This was before the game was released. These were the early reviews. It looks like a Game of the Year candidate. These reviews were stronger than Black Myth Wukong.
Yep,
and you can
that's
see
true.
The reviews themselves when you take
Yep,
a deeper
that's also
look.
true.
They're not.
And by the way, all lies. If you follow one of those companies to actually get your information, and you think that Veilguard is bad, just don't follow them anymore. You know they are going against your best interest.
So original. In fact, all of them pretty much say the same thing over and over again, using the same phrase, a triumphant return to form, over and over again. And it just shows the unoriginality and also the fact that all these reviews, one of the things they scaled into the review was the fact that this game was diverse and inclusive, which no serious gamer...
And by the way, Acolytes, this is the only positive thing that I heard about it. It's diverse and inclusive, but I'm gonna be honest, it's just... You all know that doesn't make a good game. I just don't even know what to say about it. This will be... Except it's something funny about Veilguard. I won't do anything else except for Scouter V probably. Because was it a new Veilguard that he wanted to do? I don't remember what he said to me. But basically, yeah, watch him by the way. Freaking awesome guy. And yeah, let's just see.
Actually cares about. But anyways, you can see the headlines from people like Kotaku here saying Dragon Age the Veilguard surprises everyone as EA's biggest single-player launch on Steam, which is more deceptive language from Kotaku, which of course, the way those activists worked over there, they wanted this game to succeed so they could say, wow, look at that, a woke game succeeded, take that, chuds. Well, of course, their language is manipulative. They assume or try to impress upon you that EA doesn't have some sort of a routine practice with their games, their single-player games, where they release it on Steam many years after the initial release, and that's what they have done with many titles like Dragon Age Inquisition, where they released it on Steam 6 years later. That's why a lot of journalists are saying, whoa,
yeah, it was 6 years later, yeah. I always thought it was 7. This was, by the way, the misinformation I got. Because I know it was released later, but I always forget where. I think it was on Steam. Yeah, okay, that's fine then. I didn't even heavily misinform. I had 7 years in mind, and that's... Let's just say it's an acceptable fumble.
Increased sales by 500%, Veilguard compared to Inquisition. Well, Inquisition released so much later, and Veilguard released on Steam simultaneously at launch. So, very clear difference there. But anyways, one of the biggest shills and one of the biggest, I would say, clowns in this scenario is Jason Schreier, a Bloom...
Clowns, let's look at him. Yep.
Reporter here who has a very infamous history. He went in hard on the Veilguard sales right after release, saying this: "Go woke, go bro, top the charts." And he shows a peak player count of 58,000 at the time, which is not even the 89,000 that they ended up getting. But in his eyes, this was topping the charts, which, if you know anything about the time, this wasn't even in the top 15 or 20 at the time. So it was a very bizarre statement, but he still had a lot of bravado coming out of that, where someone said, there's no way you genuinely like this turd, where he said, I actually don't like the game very much, but I do like seeing you chuds get dunked on.
At some point, Acolytes, at some point, if this shit comes down, because the pendulum is swinging back, if this stuff comes down on people like that, and they get horribly harassed, what I actually do not recommend or doing, but it will probably happen. But I won't shed a tear. It doesn't hit an innocent.
But you might notice something. This is one of the updates here. The initial post has been deleted by Jason. And Mark Kern here would point that out, saying, Jason hates you. He thinks you are chuds. He mocked the go woke, go broke meme, and it obviously backfired on him. And he is very well connected at the dev level with many woke studios, including BioWare. What does he know? EA has released 0 numbers. If it had sold 1 million copies in 24 hours like Stellar Blade, you would have heard about it by now. So that's a very good...
Oh, correctly. Stellar Blade, even after the freaking big fuck-up they had way more sales than Veilguard. Good that... I have to follow Grumps. I really have to follow Grumps. I honestly have to start to actually follow people on X. And by the way, I also heard there is a relatively new site. What is it called? Blue Sky. Have to look this one up. Because it presumably is pretty active on the social media side. So yeah, let's just gonna look at that at some point if I could get the time.
Set of points. I mean, number one, the backing down is very suspicious because it's like, man, where did that bravado go? You had such a fun time owning the chuds with your ridiculous statement about Dragon Age the Veilguard's quote-unquote success. Why did you delete your tweet? Do you disavow what you said? Or are you saying that you got it wrong? No follow-up there. They just silently deleted it. So what does he know? Well, looking around, you can see BioWare, who was tagged in that post, is clearly quite offended by what Mark Kern had to say. And they, of course, blocked him, which is a completely petty and stupid thing to do.
Yep,
and not only that, with the updates of the block feature on Twitter, this pretty much accomplishes nothing. You can view other people's profiles, even if they have you blocked. You just can't directly interact with their posts. But on top of that, the best question is, what does EA think of all this? Because clearly they are not very confident. If you've been paying attention to games like Stellar Blade, Wukong, even the latest Dragon Ball game, if a company or a game achieves, let's say, 1 million or 2 million or 3 million sales in the first 24 hours, they let you know about it immediately because it's in their own interest to.
Yes, they will and they should, because it's a lot in the first 24 hours. Damn. But it didn't.
It makes the game's sales look good and encourages people to check it out because it must be a good game if so many people are checking out. Well, we've heard nothing from EA. Not a single post, not a single number, nothing. So it's really up to your guess as to what's going on here. And really the only information we're working on is rumors from some alleged insiders who are claiming that the sales are extremely bad. And it really shouldn't surprise you that the allegations that the sales are bad is something that's going out there because on day one, I mean, Veilguard, on its much anticipated release, was crushed by a beta test for Monster Hunter Wilds. And again, yes, beta is free, but the fact that so many more people were interested in that than playing Veilguard, despite the history and the success of the franchise, is very, very telling. On top of that, I think BioWare has made it very clear that they have just moved on. That they're trying to just say, well, that happened with Veilguard. Let's move on to something else that might make us money because they've already confirmed that they have shifted their attention as a studio towards the next Mass Effect game. Essentially saying, there's nothing else here for Veilguard. We're just going to give some quality of life improvements and like bug patches in the future. There's no DLCs coming. There's no additional content. We're just kind of saying, well, yeah, that's all we got for Veilguard.
Good. Perfect. I am happy about it. The more it flops, the better it is.
And here is the article that we were hinting at the beginning of this video. So as you can see, Dragon Age the Veilguard rumored to have sold less than Star Wars Outlaws. So that's not too surprising. One of the sources in this video is going to be Endymion. He was the one who claimed that the pre-orders of this game were absolutely atrocious, and that really just kind of tracks with all the information we're seeing, not just the direct data we're seeing from the Steam charts, but also from the less direct evidence we're seeing, like from EA and their lack of a response or lack of posts regarding their sales. But this is from the article here. So it says YouTuber Endymion revealed that a source shared with him that the game has sold about 500,000 copies, which is just half of what is rumored regarding Star Wars Outlaws. So if you know anything about these sort of expectations for a game like this, that is so abysmal. Star Wars Outlaws, with its 1 million sales, was considered a gigantic flop. And Veilguard is barely achieving half of that, according to the source. The sources that Endymion's been talking to, by the way, have been proven to be very reliable. And going further, the number that we're hearing from people at EA now is that there was between 70 to 75,000 pre-orders in total before release. Again, don't need to be an expert in the field to know for a game like Veilguard, that is really bad. So
yeah, basically, yeah.
The final quote here is, in total, what I'm told that Veilguard may have sold overall so far anyway in the 500,000 range, which may sound good to some, but this is completely abysmal. for a game of this level. And yes, if you want to check out Endymion's video, I'll put a link to it in the description. Make sure to check out his channel. He has a lot of great insight from people who have been coming to him and sharing some very important information regarding a lot of the, really just the gaming scene in general right now, and a lot of the concerns gamers have had, and the insights they've wanted have been revealed by these insiders, and I think it's really great.
Yeah, by the way, interesting fact, Endymion, he himself, freaking cool guy, but his community is freaking toxic. Absolute effing junk. I not as bad as other communities, but F me the shit I got just because of reacting to his videos is insane. Insane. It's just poof.
To check out. Now, here's the last thing we're looking at from...
And by the way, I stopped reacting to his videos because I found different things that are funnier, so that's that.
That article, so... in quotes here, I'm also told in terms of refunds that currently the game had at least 30,000 refunds in the past few days, which is not good for your game that has barely sold 500,000 copies to be hemorrhaging players like that. He then shared, so generally speaking, Veilguard is not a commercial success. It needed to sell around 4 to 5 million.
A bit short of that stuff. Just a bit. A smidget. As like a hair's thick miss.
To make a profit, at least. And that clearly is not going to be happening based on what we're seeing here from this insider. Now, we've seen continued copium, and of course, one of the themes here with Dragon Age: The Veilguard is that people say it is a woke game. It's not just having woke components in the character creation process. Woke aspects are weaved into the entire story. You know, pull a bar, go do your push-ups because you misgendered someone. Ridiculous shit like that. But anyways, you can see PC Gamer here saying, metaphor is a proof that politics are good in video games, actually, no matter what reactionaries tell you. And games journals like this, they don't understand why people hate.
By the way, acolytes, I will agree on one point. Politics in games can be very good. But nobody likes the woke stuff. Like, let's gonna be honest. If I see this stuff, I am just physically ill. I am physically ill. There are just good politics, and especially if you want to do this stuff, then do it at least in a smart manner, in some kind of way, just in a smart way, or do in-game politics. That works even better. But no, we need to get shoved in our anal covenants like every single time. You're the bad guy. Don't do this, don't do that. Miss this. Flagellant yourself, or is it called flagellant? You know, the flagellants that just freaking hit themselves on the back until they're bloody with whips. F off.
Woke games, and what makes something a woke game? It is when the entirety of the game is focusing on wokeness. It's not just having a few aspects here and there, like in the character creation process, for example, that exists in games like Baldur's Gate 3. It's when the story is catering to it. Just like I said, asking people to pull a bar or encouraging them to basically have a punishment because they're not following some woke agenda. Yeah. And really at this point, we have seen a...
Beautiful.
Just bloodbath of woke games this year, beginning with Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, Concord, Outlaws, Unknown Nine Awakening, Veilguard. But what's next? Well, we have the February release, or at least the intended February release, of Assassin's Creed Shadows. That is going to be one of the most interesting moments we'll see in a long time. And if they actually follow through on that delayed release date in February, but the amount of negative attention towards that game in particular and Ubisoft as a whole is mind-boggling. It is so much worse than the previous titles we're looking at. They actually have achieved significantly worse PR and optics than all these other games. So I'm going to be very interested.
I mean, they achieved a lot of positive things with the games journalists, so at least that's that. I'm gonna be honest, as if a games journalist, like mainstream games journalist, thinking is even remotely worth something by this day and in this day and age. If I ever get kids, or of my family the kids show any interest in that stuff, I'm just gonna say no mate, you don't. They're gonna get punished for it in some kind of way. Like, no, you're not getting a dessert if you actually watch it. Nah, of course a joke, don't worry.
Interested to see what happens with Assassin's Creed Shadows. We are much anticipating to see what happens with that, and of course it'll be covered here, but we have a few months until then, so for now, that's gonna do it for this video.
As it is, Rev the Legend again. For now, good night, Acolyte.